Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another video where I take a fighter from Baki, or in this case Kengan, and pit them up against either the Annihilation tournament or the Purgatory tournament and see how they would do against each of the fighters that participated. This time, we'll be doing the MC of the series and master of the Nico style, TikToker Ohma, who originally fought against Inaba in the first round, then Ryan in the second, Cosmo in the third, Wakatsuki in the fourth, and finally the Beard Kuroki Gensai in the fifth and final round. Something that I'll do for Ohma that I won't do for anyone else, I don't think, is to represent the drastic increase of power Ohma experiences between each round. I'll pit him up against all the round 1 losers first as round 1 Ohma, then round 2 losers as round 2 Ohma, and so on until the finale, which will be more of a brief analysis than a what if, same as any other fight he actually fought. If you want to discuss this more at length with myself or other Kengan enjoyers, and you enjoy Kengan content yourself, be sure to join the Discord, subscribe to the channel, and be on the lookout out for my next video, an interesting discussion video I got asked to do by Saorla the Surly on Discord a long time ago, a discussion about which ancient martial art is better between Tagoi, the ancestor of sumo and jujutsu, and Pancration, the original MMA. Alright, let's talk Kengan. So first, to outline our leading man's powers and abilities, Tokita Ohma is a top-tier master of the Nico style, an incredibly powerful and versatile martial art comprised of footwork forms for hardening your muscles to boost offense or bolster defense, grappling and submission forms, and energy control and redirection forms, as well as several techniques combining the different forms, and a secret technique in the form of the possessing spirit, the advance, that increases Ohma's speed, and by that same token his power, at the cost of his consciousness, his memory, and his life. If you want to know more about the Nico style itself, check out this video where I explain the Nico style, link in the description. But while Ohma is a nearly peerless martial arts master by the final round, the damage to his mind and memory caused by overusing the advance and Nico's chi blockage, which he used to stop Ohma from killing himself with advance, had caused him to forget a majority of the Nico style's techniques and regressed his mastery significantly until he regained his skills through using the Nico style in his fights. It was only after defeating Ryan in round 2 did Ohma fully regain his mastery of the Nico style, so prior to that, both in rounds 1 and 2, Ohma had complete mastery of Flame Kata, the Footwork Kata, and Redirection Kata, the Energy Manipulation Kata, and relied more so on those kata and their techniques than Adamantine Kata and Water Kata, save for some basic techniques like Indestructible and the occasional Iron Breaker, with these occurrences ramping up towards the end of round 2. In terms of power, durability, and speed, Ohma even as a young boy was strong enough to cause this damage to a forest with his strongest technique while reflecting an attack from Nico, but even while nerfed as an adult, he was able to do this kind of damage to a giant boulder with a single Iron Breaker. He's fast enough at his weakest state to keep up with Inaba, who can block bullets, and even blitz him with a nerfed advance. And not only did he tank Nico's attack as a kid, while heavily relying on Demon's Bane to negate and redirect the full power of the blow, but he can tank punches from Ryan and Wakatsuki, two of the physically strongest fighters in the tournament. He can use endorphins like in Baki, his endurance is crazy, he's got very good foresight and general predictive abilities, he can increase his damage or defense with Adamantine Kata and Advance, his speed with Flame Kata and Advance, he can go limp or redirect damage to negate damage, he has pressure point attacks, and has the single most techniques out of any fighter in the Annihilation tournament. His record is 10-1, so really good for a newbie on the scene. He's roughly 20 years old, 6 foot even, and will be fighting at 187 pounds for this video, his weight in Kengan Ashura. So starting with Adam, we kinda got to see how that would go in Ohma's mental projection training. While Nico does remind Ohma that the Adam and Gozo that he fights in his mind are only weak imitations made up of what Ohma could detect of their powers and abilities from watching them fight, I have a feeling that the fight wouldn't have gone much differently had it actually happened, since Adam's strongest qualities are his physical strength and his ability to use his trunks to exert said strength even in situations where others could not, but Ohma's favorite kata, Redirection Kata, completely locks out Adam even if he manages to get in a good shot or two. Haruo is actually worse off than Adam, as at least Adam had some base level brawling skills he could use to fight Ohma a bit more tactically, even if his arrogance and bullheadedness would cause that to fail as well, but Haruo is just too simple-minded and prone to fits of rage to overcome having his power used against him with Redirection Kata, and Ohma being too nimble and agile for Haruo to really hurt due to Flame Kata. Haruo's comeback might take Ohma by surprise, but if Ohma can take blows from Ryan, I'm sure he could even take a bear killer from Awakened Haruo and keep get going, and advance could serve to both further the gap in their speeds and close the gap in their striking power if there is one. For Mokichi, this is probably our first fight above low diff. If we compare Ohma's performance against base Ryan to Mokichi's, you can distinctly see that Mokichi actually did better. Against Mokichi, Ryan was forced to use the removal, partly because he wanted to dominate the fight, but Mokichi was so strong that the fight was closer to even, with the edge even potentially going to Mokichi, and partly because Ryan had to defeat Mokichi before he sustained too much damage that might impact his performance in future rounds. If I'm being honest, with Mokichi's boxing footwork being able to match up with Ohma's flame kata, or at least keep up, Mokichi's classical jujutsu being able to match Ohma's redirection kata if not exceed it, and his stats just being all around better, I think I'm leaning Mokichi. Even with advance, remember, round 1 Ohma can't use the Nico style when advance is active, and at this point, he really only had access to first gear and maybe second gear if we're being generous, where he needed full throttle to combat removal Ryan, whereas Mokichi may have been losing to removal Ryan, but he was still able to fight back and keep up in some regard. Add to that the fact that Mokichi believed he could still defeat Ryan or change the tide of the battle with his secret Baritsu two-finger technique even after all that Ryan had done, and I've got to give this one to Mokichi, at least round 1. Round 2 Ohma might be able to beat him, but it's honestly still a tough fight. Inaba we already saw, but Ohma's win was basically due to Ohma's flame kata, his superior fighting fundamentals, and the advance. Murobuchi is definitely not going to be someone that goes down easily, if at all. What he lacks in martial skill, he makes up for in pure, unadulterated raw power. I don't think he's going to be able to pull off his arm lock, and for as fast as his flying knee is, Ohma has both the flame kata to just move out of the way, or if he can react fast enough, he could use redirection kata and end the fight basically the same way as Wakatsuki, by using the power of Murobuchi's charge against him. Worst comes to worst and Ohma gets overwhelmed in the normal exchanges, advance should still be enough to take out Gozo. Sawada and his 2G are a pretty unsuspecting threat, but his spinning for power makes him very susceptible to redirection kata, and his over-reliance on kicks makes him predictable, so Ohma should take this low diff. Meguro is a very difficult opponent because of his ability to turn pain into pleasure. Ohma has great redirection kata skills, which should help with Meguro's judo and its throws, but he doesn't have very good water kata, which might hurt his chances in a grappling exchange. I think with Meguro's single-minded pursuit of offense, Ohma's mastery of redirection, and his incredible predictive skills even early on in the series, and the raw power of his advance, I think Ohma could kill Meguro, but it would be a very tough fight since redirection and prediction would lock out all of Meguro's offense. But I think Ohma would need the advance to defeat Meguro, and Ohma's too much of a berserker in advance to use the Nico style or prediction, so he would probably take a ton of damage from Meguro's throws before killing him with raw power. We got to see a version of Ohma versus Kyozan in Kengan Omega, but that was pure Grand Sumo Kyozan versus Ohma with full mastery of Nico style and significant improvement on top of that. Honestly, I don't think Ohma can do this, not at round 1. Round 2 Ohma definitely could win, but as it stands, round 1 Ohma probably wouldn't be on the same power level as Ryan, and for Kyozan to have both the power to wear down Seki, the fighter with the best endurance in the tournament, as well as the durability to tank Seki's monstrous attacks, I think that power and defense would be too much of an insurmountable wall for Ohma. Redirection kata is definitely going to help to overcome Kyozan's offense, but Kyozan's hand strikes, kicking techniques, and grappling mastery will be a lot to deal with. Even with prediction and redirection, Flame Kata will play to a weakness of Kyozan's, his lack of agility, but agility doesn't matter much against someone who can tank most anything you can throw at him. The final nail in the coffin, I don't think even in first gear advance that Ohma has any answer for Raging Vigor. It's too fast to dodge, probably even too fast to redirect, and it hits way too hard to tank. It's like Gozo's flying knee on crack. It's just too much for round 1 Ohma, I think. Karo Yoshinari just doesn't have the technical skill or agility to defeat Ohma. He's quite tanky, he can strike from unorthodox angles, and his whale burial hits like a truck. But it's also very telegraphed, his attack patterns are predictable enough that even a hothead like Sa Peng outpredicted him, and he's still susceptible to redirection and pressure points. Nezu, as tough as he is just a weaker version of Adam without any special abilities, so he doesn't really pose much of a threat. Rihito already lost right before the tournament, so I can't imagine that a rematch would go too differently, especially since it wasn't particularly close once Ohma shut down Rihito's Razor's Edge. Nikaido is a dangerous opponent, but luckily for Ohma, they won't be fighting on a battlefield, so he's got a chance. Nikaido's Guangda and Lan techniques will be trouble since they both have the tremendous power of Fa-Jin in each strike, and Ohma only has basic defensive techniques like Indestructible, and to boot, Nikaido is incredibly agile for somebody without any special footwork skills, but I think Flame Kata is going to be especially useful to avoid any Fa-Jin techniques, and Indestructible can block any of the few attacks that land. Qi-Long will definitely be a problem, but just like against Kiryu, Ohma's just going to get up in advance and finish the fight. It'll be a little more involved than that, but that's what it'll amount to. Chiba could be problematic, but it's really a matter of how much damage Ohma takes before beating him, not a matter of if Ohma beats him. Some more powerful fighters could give Ohma some trouble, like Bruce Lee would do a great job of matching his Flame Kata footwork and peppering him with hand strikes, protecting himself with Wing Chun trapping, and dealing big damage with his kicks. Hoist Gracie would be a serious problem since even Ohma with Water Kata Mastery had a hard time against Cosmo. Mike Tyson would definitely have the head movement, footwork, and pressure and combos to overwhelm Ohma, and MMA fighters like Kazushi Sakuraba and Boss Rutan have the grappling and striking skills while also being well-rounded to match Ohma while defeating him in a particular field. But the problem is, of course, that Chiba can only approximate a fraction of their power, so he swaps between several fighters, so it's only a matter of time before he pulls a Hatsumi and swaps into the wrong person and gets countered by Ohma. Dr. Hanafusa has a win condition against everyone in the tournament with his virus, but I honestly think that his not feeling pain, his Chin-Na, and his bone blades will defeat Ohma, clear out. The blades make every strike lethal, his lack of feeling pain means he can trade with Ohma to negate Ohma's agility, and hidden weapons like his heal bomb make predictions incredibly difficult. Eventually Ohma's gonna end up trying to use Advance, which is weak to pressure point attacks, which in turn are the primary means of attack in Chin-Na. Foresight makes things particularly difficult for Ohma against Kaneda, but Ohma has very good predictive abilities of his own, and his redirection is leagues above Kaneda's, so I got him taking the fight mid-diff. Finally for round 1 Ohma, Okubo, who I should not have to explain why he destroys round 1 Ohma. He's completely rounded in a way that would be a decent matchup for a full Nico-style mastery Ohma. The man with every technique versus the man with any technique. Round 1 Ohma doesn't stand a chance. Now for round 2, Okoye's defense is impeccable and his reactions are ridiculous, but with Ohma's mastery of Nico style burgeoning again, he has more options to overcome the gap. His best friends are going to be the Flame Kata to keep on Okoye to prevent his using the stance of suppression, and Adamantine Kata to both defend against Okoye's strikes while whittling down Okoye's defense with Iron Breakers. He could also use Water Kata, as we saw how effective grappling is against Okoye with Cosmo, but ultimately it'll go the same way, with Okoye biting and tearing into Ohma. Ohma has defense against that with Indestructible, but regardless, I don't think Okoye survives what Ryan lost to. Incomplete Nico-style onslaught, full throttle advance fight, and then a final fight against Ohma with his Nico-style mastery returning. It's like 3 fights in one match, each opponent stronger than the last. It's a miracle Ryan did as well as he did, honestly. Speaking of Ryan, he honestly probably should have won looking back on the fight, but the fact is that Ohma won and grew immeasurably stronger as a result. I think Ohma would have more believably beat Ryan as he was in round 3, but round 2 Ohma vs Ryan was probably one of the most entertaining and fun matches of the tournament, so I'm willing to suspend my disbelief. Julius is a monster, but if his strength is comparable to Ryan's, I don't see what he can do against Ohma when he's less skilled in martial arts. Ryan may not have been using specific Kure techniques, but he still has the fight IQ of a master-level martial artist. Julius has a peerless grasp of anatomy and biology, but distinctly doesn't have any expertise in martial arts and fighting, so he's gonna get predicted, he's gonna get grappled and redirected, and Iron Breakers are gonna be able to hurt him, while Indestructibles are gonna be able to help to block his attacks. Ultimately, Ohma's becomes so strong in round 2 that even Julius is fighting an uphill battle against him. Sekibayashi unfortunately gets turned into a punching bag. Like, he has the endurance to stay at it for the long haul, but he's not strong enough to do any meaningful damage to Ohma overall, especially not in Gear 2 Advance, and he's not even fast enough to consistently keep up. Sorry, Sekibayashi. The marvelous Seki, though, So Pang is an actual beast, and the Hammer of Burma may very well end the fight. if it lands. Sawpang definitely has the power and durability to match Adamantine Kata, but every other Kata basically hard counters him. Water Kata negates his entire style, save for maybe knees to some degree, elbows, and normal headbutts, especially because he doesn't have the short-range hammer of Burma, and though you could make the argument that Saw is more durable and more powerful than Ohma's Adamantine Kata in round 2, that Saw may be able to use the grappling in left way to stave off Ohma's low-level mastery of Water Kata at this stage, and that his keeping up with Ray to some degree shows that he has the predictive skills and adaptability to keep up with Flame Kata, but there's not a whole lot Saw can do about Redirection Kata. It hard counters his stock forward rushdown offensive power-based approach. It's one of the kata Ohma's had mastery of since the beginning of the tournament, and it's Ohma's favorite kata. Even if he did overcome Nico style, I don't think he can hold a candle to advance at this point. A fight with Kiryu at round 2 I see going similarly to the Ryan fight, but being that Indestructible can neg Rashascapam and Kiryu's stylistically more about agility, mobility, and unpredictability rather than power and durability like Ryan, I think Kiryu beats incomplete Nico style Ohma pretty handily, actually wins against advanced Ohma just barely, but loses horribly to complete Nico style Ohma. Ryan's problem is that he kept trading with Ohma. No matter who you are in this tournament, training with Gear 2 or Full Throttle Advance is going to wipe you out. So by the time Ryan had to fight Phase 3 of the Ohma boss fight, he was completely out of health and stamina. Kiryu would likely do much better at avoiding Gear 2 and Full Throttle thanks to Fallen Angel, but one good hit would put him in an awful state, and complete Nico-style Ohma basically dog-walks Kiryu by virtue of completely outclassing him in sheer skill. Bando doesn't stand a chance here. He could beat Ohma with a whip strike because of power and reach, but Flame Kata and Advance completely neg Bando. Ohma will close the distance and dominate at close range, with Bando never being able to even touch him. Gao Lang is basically like Sawpang, but less power and more skill. Foresight will temper Ohma's ability to just use Flame Kata footwork and prediction to outskill. Gao Lang is one of the fastest strikers in the tournament, so Ohma may get a couple of redirects, but he would need more skill to perform any better than Kaneda, and Adamantine Kata would just be Ohma tanking shots while never really landing any good ones himself, save for a striker's chance. Ohma's best shot is his Water Kata, but even still, I just don't think Gao Lang can overcome the sheer power and speed of Advance. And even if he did, while he'd put up a fantastic fight against complete Nico-style Ohma, he just wouldn't have the gas left after fighting an incomplete Nico-style Ohma and a full throttle Advance Ohma to beat even a worn-down complete Nico-style Ohma with, specifically, Water Kata back on the table. Ohma wins high diff. Ohma vs Cosmo goes same as before. His complete mastery of Nico style at this stage makes it so that he can now outclass expert martial artists even in their specialized field of expertise. Muteba just isn't a good matchup against someone as fast and as strong as Ohma at this stage. He's got a lot of great killer techniques, but it doesn't amount to much if he can't land those hits or is getting pummeled into forfeiting before he can pull them off. Mikazuchi, especially with his love amp, could definitely be a problem, and his pressure points could make Advance difficult to use or maintain, but his main gimmick, his speed, is useless against someone who's so proficient in predicting attacks. His linear attack patterns get him predicted, and he gets countered with a flashing steel like Waka vs Gozo. Hatsumi can easily beat Ohma's Redirection Kata and Water Kata, and his Adamantine Kata could be made quite ineffective if Ohma didn't also have Flame Kata. Combining striking techniques with Flame Kata changes their trajectory and momentum, making them more difficult to redirect and manipulate with Aikido, countering Hatsumi's entire style. Swimming Swallow also specifically resists predictions, hard countering Hatsumi's style completely, and Hatsumi just doesn't have the stats to take on Advance and Nico style at the same time, nor does he have a big enough skill advantage to compensate for getting stat checked. Finally, the last 3 fights. Ohma beats Waka, it's just as narrow a fight as we saw. Waka's strength, durability, mastery of karate, and blast core are only overcome by the power of Demon's Bane, and Ohma loses extreme diff to Agito and Kuroki. Both of them are so close in terms of general fighting power, be it skill or stats, that there's basically no space between them. If you'd lose to Kuroki, you'd lose to Agito. Ohma's best chance to beat Agito is to Demon's Bane his Dragon Shot, similarly to how Kuroki made Dragon Shot misfire, but I don't think Ohma could get the fight there for a specific reason. While Kuroki had some knowledge of the Nico style since his master helped Gao Mukaku create it from the Gao style, so Kuroki only knew some of the moves or where they took influence from, Agito is trained in the Nico style. His Nico style may not be the same as Ohma's, but they likely share enough of the basics that the Nico style would probably be the least effective against Agito out of everyone in the tournament. Alright, that's my take on how Ohma would do against everyone in the Annihilation tournament. If you liked the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Let me know how you think things would go in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace!